Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Subscription Scaled. I'm your host, Nick Frederick. With me today is Neil Dudley, who is Vice President at Pederson Natural Farms. Neil, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. What a warm welcome it has been. People don't always see behind the scenes. We've had a little conversation, prior to hitting record, and it's been good. It makes me excited to share with your audience our experience, and hopefully it'll be valuable in the way it's valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go there. Let's dive in a little bit, and of course, start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us about what Pederson Natural Farms is, what the business model looks like, and of course, your background and how you came to be there.
Yeah, this one's a fun story for me. It's really my whole career has been with Pederson's. I was born and raised on a ranch in Central Texas. My best friend since kindergarten got promoted to president at Pederson's in like 2002.
Okay.
At that point, I came to the business, and Pederson's is a better for you, vertically integrated animal protein business.
Okay.
Really do most of our lion's share of our business at retail with upscale natural retailers, Whole Foods, Sprouts, or kind of the national names people recognize pretty readily. And so after about 20 years of working on that, you go back about 5 years, we started really thinking about getting into direct consumer business, selling online and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you start talking about subscriptions and how do you get a consumer to continually come back and bring your food to their table and their family and keep them happy. And, then that just becomes this journey of learning and insight and marketing, all these things that really requires. I don't know. Did that tell you anything about
It actually tells you a lot. And I think it's a very relevant story because the subscription economy in general is booming, right? We're seeing all kinds of businesses get into it that weren't historically, kind of part of it. And for so many of them that are going from that transactional model or even a wholesale model of doing business to being direct to consumer recurring, there's a whole lot of lessons along the way there that I'm sure you guys have experienced too. So maybe let's back up a little bit to, you said it's about 5 years of doing direct to consumer. What were the drivers for you guys when you looked at the market and thought about growth and thought, instead of going through distributors or directly to, restaurants and grocery stores, that you wanted to go directly to end consumers?
I got to imagine there's some people out there that were a lot like we were 5 years ago. I mean, this is a round date. It could have been 6. Maybe it was 4. I mean, but just back a few years ago, we had great retail partnerships. We had great relationships with our buyers, our consumers. We were building all of this through social media, influencers, all these different things. And it comes up in the boardroom. We've got to get into some e-commerce business. It will be way behind if we don't. And so our first idea was, we'll start an e-com business, but we won't name it Pederson's. We'll do it totally outside of this structure, so we don't have the risk of making our buyers say, well, you know what? I think I'll just quit ordering Pederson's because it looks like to me y'all are out there competing with us now.
Sure.
So we went through that. We started the first e-commerce business under a brand called The Simple Grocer, and it went really good. We sell everything frozen, and we thought we had done just the greatest thing. Wow, we did it. And nobody was mad at us. Nobody called and said,
That's
but
good.
Quick, anybody with half a brain figured out Pederson's was The Simple Grocer because it was pretty much the only products on The Simple Grocer. Brought in a few like-minded brands and tried working with people. We never really fully understood what it was going to take to get in the e-commerce. So we kind of thought website, turn it on, tell people they can get it direct to their house. It's going to explode.
Mm-hmm.
It's thinking like that. I just a fair warning. This doesn't work like that.
That's the main takeaway right there. It's not what you think it is.
Yes. We happen to have a really good customer at the time called Butcher Box. Anybody that's kind of paying attention to protein subscription boxes, those guys are killing it and did kill it.
Yeah. We had them on the show previously, actually.
Oh, sweet. Mike and Mike, which, do you know who?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, anyways, they're all named Michael over there. So it's hard. It's easy. Just say Mike. Mike Salguero founded the company, and then he brought on named Mike Billings that kind of ran the meat procurement part.
Yep.
Actually, that's the only two Mikes. But we sold them bacon early on. Like they were looking for somebody with like-minded thoughts around food and protein, and we fit that bill. We sold them a lot of bacon early on. Before I learned I've just been watching them and learned a lot from those guys, and luckily did some business with them. One of their big promos that got a lot of their subscribers was free bacon. So it made me really appreciative of the fact that what we do is bacon mainly. And it's not hard to sell bacon. You kind of just have to walk in the room and say, I have bacon.
I got bacon.
Yeah. I don't know. I've kind of trailed off to a bigger story potentially than just answering your question, but I think it all paints the picture of where Pederson's comes from, how we got into the e-commerce direct-to-consumer game. It was kind of through this simple grocer. We realized that wasn't a great brand building strategy, so we kind of switched everything over to Pederson's.
Okay.
Added subscriptions. The structure of that is hard. It's hard to overlay subscriptions with pick a piece, whatever you want, and buy it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we definitely want to get into that. Just to dive in a little bit more on your initial e-commerce journey. From an organizational standpoint, you guys, like I said, wholesale and grocers and all that, then going direct to consumer. What did you find were some of the biggest gaps between the way you were operating in that world and then when you started to go direct to consumer? Was it the technology? Was it the marketing? I'm sure it was all of these things, but what were the biggest things that stood out where you guys either had to add knowledge or bring in the right partners to make all that work?
Fulfillment. I mean, I thought, is there something else to say? But no, that was the biggest hurdle for us to jump through, to find how we did a lot of fulfillment ourselves. Was just not a good fit for our structure, our warehouses, our team, all of those things, our freight lines, etc. Really, none of it was really good. We didn't know what we were doing. It wasn't particularly that we couldn't learn, but we had other stuff going on. It was like almost trying to find time to learn how to do it. And it turned out we just had to find a fulfillment partner. That was really the biggest hurdle for us.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of 3PLs out there, but probably not a whole lot that can do, fresh food. So what was that process like to find the right partner?
I mean, really everything we do is frozen, and that's, refrigerator, frozen, 3PLs are few and far between. In full transparency, they're not real sure how to do it either. I mean, there's this last mile of fulfillment in food or refrigerated. What am I trying to say here? Not shelf stable, but perishable.
Perishable
is the toughest part.
Well, we've certainly seen in the past year some of those big brands that put a whole lot of money into direct to consumer marketing of fresh foods. The grocers or the meal delivery kits have a lot of struggles. In fact, some of them declared bankruptcy and folded. So yeah, it makes sense that they're we're still trying to figure it out. There's not a ton of margin there to play with, I would assume.
Yeah, just the cost of fulfillment with the refrigeration. I mean, we're kind of a environmentally conscious brand and company and group of people. And next thing you know, we're shipping styrofoam all over the country into people's homes. Huge that doesn't feel real good. And then you start trying to figure out, well, how do we? Texas is kind of also a barrier. It's hotter than Hades down here during the summer, and you try to get something out of here. and keep it cold from here to Washington State, or
Yeah.
it just, some of those things are super challenging. So
Yeah.
I think we'll get there. I've seen it too many times. We get there. So we get it figured out, but we're not there yet. I mean, the
Yeah.
recyclable freezers or coolers aren't really good enough to make it work. You're using
Yeah.
a lot of pounds of dry ice, which increases your freight costs. I mean, it's just all of these things, you kind of weave them all together, it gets expensive. And I'm not sure if the convenience is outweighing the expense, especially in kind of at least now in this inflationary economy. And
Yeah. Well, and I would think too, you guys are a premium product, right?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
meat available at the grocery store. It's not a matter of not being able to get a similar product. It's people want Pederson's, right? They've seen it in a restaurant, they've seen it at Whole Foods. They're like, yeah, I want to buy it direct. So that getting there and being not cold or frozen is going to be a problem, right?
yeah. And then it's just trash. I mean, there's no recovery of that because now it's spoiled. It's not safe for anybody to eat. So you're just replacing that whole thing, redoing all the freight. You can't ask the consumer to do that. It just gets really cost prohibitive. And I think that's why you see a lot of the meal kit companies, I don't know, Blue Apron
Yeah.
type companies that struggle, have a hard time. And now we're kind of coming out of COVID. People are like, no, I really like the restaurant. I like being in that atmosphere and going
Yeah.
to the grocery store and doing that shopping. So,
Yeah. So when you guys look to add subscriptions to your e-commerce offering, were the drivers there seeing customers order repeat products over and over again? Was it to try to encourage repeat business? I mean, what were some of the main drivers that you guys thought, hey, we're going to add in these programs as well?
yeah, I would love this to be some great technical insight. It's just not. What it was typically if people subscribe, they don't cancel their subscription. So if we could get people subscribing, we know as long as we don't fail bad, we're going to get to keep recurring business going. And that's just really substantial for us because as soon as we get like consistently thousands of orders going out a week, all of a sudden now we've got leverage with, I want to say, I wasn't not 3PL, but like FedEx, UPS, any of these.
Yeah. Okay.
As soon as we're shipping
Mhm.
more units with those guys, they pay attention to us. And thousands really not enough, but eventually you get to a scale where you get a chance to say, hey, we're over here and we might go to the other guy if you don't negotiate a little bit.
Right. Right. It starts to bring those economies of scale into view and you can renegotiate and get better deals for sure. What about just
to touch on one thing before we get too far down the
Sure.
road? And that is one thing that works good for us and gives us a bit of a leg is really a huge piece of our consumer base is they're on some kind of dietary restriction. Either they
Okay.
can't have gluten, they just really don't want sugar. But there's some piece of the things we do by doing very minimal ingredients. We don't use nitrite and nitrate. So we've got a certain consumer base that you really can't buy that at every grocery store.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it
Mhm.
helps us a little from that standpoint. All right. So
Sure.
back to that's the reason we implemented subscriptions. The simple idea of we get them once. We really only need to acquire them once and do a good job when we get to keep them. Hopefully for, I don't know. I don't even have the number in front of me and I've never had anybody get it for us. How many recurring subscriptions typically happen before somebody unsubscribes or leaves? But we knew we are probably going to get them for, some number greater than one.
Yeah. Right. I would assume you guys offer some sort of discount for subscribers off of the retail prices.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say
What have you seen? And
we change it from time to time.
you do. Okay. What have you guys seen in terms of like uh, helping your operations? Just knowing that hey, there's going to be X number of orders of bacon going out this week every month versus we'll just have to wait until those orders come in from the e-commerce site.
Well, it's it's a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to strategizing your fulfillment, strategizing your labor. Uh, we make all the product ourselves, so it helps us to know, hey, we got these X
Yeah.
amount of subscriptions are coming. We don't make product and then all of a sudden have no order for it. I mean, that's a really a big juggle or a juggling act for us all the time with a perishable
Mhm.
product, which I like to whine about it. Like, oh, we're perishable. I just wish we made pens or something that doesn't have a
Mhm.
shelf life. But the fact is, the guys making pens whine about something too. It's like we all have our own
We
struggle.
all have our challenges. Yep. So what about from a technology perspective and I would say even maybe operations as you guys scaled up that e-commerce site, added in subscription, which creates a whole new set of technology challenges as well. Did you guys view yourselves as a technology company prior to that? So adding in, this kind of fit in, or did you find yourself going out and having to find partners and platforms that fit what you were looking for?
Well, we definitely never viewed ourselves as a technology company. I mean, we were kind of on the front end of technology with regards to processing of animal
Okay.
proteins
Okay.
and packaging equipment for that. But I mean, we weren't playing in the realm of the technologies that are out there for direct consumer sales, website uh, structures, softwares that bolt onto these things. The facts are, we didn't. I mean, we're still trying. We've probably tried three different solutions, and none of them are really great. I talked to the butcher box guys quite a bit. Like they built their solution, like they just had software engineers building their
Yeah.
website. We were using Shopify, which is kind of iterated multiple times since we got involved with it. And
Mhm.
we're pretty happy with it. Our business is not big enough at this time to really be stretching that platform in a way that we feel like it can't kind of help us. Plus, everybody's developing something to go
Right.
alongside them that help.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of the different subscription kind of, I guess you'd call them apps or bolt-on
Yeah.
softwares we've used. None of them are really coming to mind, but I know we've been through two or three, and it's always a problem because you lose subscribers when you're doing that transition. It's
Yep.
like, hey, this thing that's almost impossible to build every time we have to change this, part of it crumbles off.
Yep. Yep. You experienced what we've heard many, many times before, which is the challenges, the growing pains, and even if you're not growing, the technology around you is changing. And consumer expectations are changing too, right? And kind of speaking of that, when you have subscribers, they're obviously signing up and they're saying what they want at the interval and kind of when they want it. When customers, come to you, get signed up, and may either experience issues, maybe they have too much product, they've got too much bacon in the freezer, or I don't know what the case might be. All these different reasons to maybe want to change up their subscription, maybe cancel it, maybe pause it. Have you guys played with different strategies for keeping the customers going rather than just cutting the cord and canceling?
Yeah, any strategy that keeps the cord from being cut is preferable. Uh, I don't know. We also talk about this a whole lot. We generally want anybody who's ever bought our product or any who might buy our product to have what they need and what in life. Keeping somebody subscribed just so they can keep getting their reminder email that they should go check their, be sure and go check your cart and make sure your subscription is what you want it to be. When they don't want it, they don't need it, they're in a different place in life, they've had kids graduate, whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely want those people to just feel good about leaving or staying or whatever. We absolutely say, hey, if you just want to pause it, that's a better option for us.
Yeah.
But if you're just out, you're out. That's okay too. We'll see you
Yeah.
next. I tell people, just stay in business. Oh, I mean, and that sounds like a simple thing, and it's a very hard thing. Stay in business, and you'll be around and you'll get a chance at almost every person you've ever wanted to sell to.
What are your goals with subscription? I mean, we've talked about the benefits of it, but relative and probably lump the e-commerce business as a whole in with this, but relative to your wholesale business and your distributors, do you want to see a bigger slice of the pie coming from that side of the business, or do you see that as a way to sure drive some revenue, but build your brand as well? Helps consumers know it when they get to interact directly with it. What are some of your bigger goals when you think about direct to consumer?
You must talk about this all the time. I mean, you nailed it. Really, we're not going to, at least in the near future, drastically change the trajectory of our company with e-commerce sales. But we are going to drastically change the amount of brand recognition and amount of conversion we get at retail through having a great e-commerce business and a great website. I don't know really anybody who doesn't shop online and then go buy at the store or build their brand understanding, their brand alliances, or just the companies they want to do business with. They're voting with their dollars with the. If we don't have some kind of e-commerce presence, then I feel like our brand, and I say there's a huge group of people at Pederson's that make these decisions together and have these conversations. We're just not going to have the kind of robust interaction you must have with consumers to really know, are we doing a thing that they need, want, expect without this e-commerce direct consumer play.
Yeah. Well, good on you guys for recognizing that and getting in front of it. I mean, there's certainly brands that don't, or at least ones that are just now coming around to that realization. And you're exactly right. The days in the past of I can just put my product on a shelf at a grocery store and hope for the best, and that's going to be my growth strategy. Relying on that one channel is not what the most successful brands are doing. They're going omni-channel. Trying to put it direct to consumer and in the the traditional channels as well. But good on you guys for getting in front of it. You said you launched this 5 years ago, which was obviously before COVID happened, and you were selling food online. I mean, what happened to the site when all that happened?
I mean, does anybody not know? I mean, it's like I think about stuff like this all the time, and then I'm like, oh yes, a lot of people don't know. I think everybody is in the food business, but they're just not. They're in other businesses. It's like what happened is we had a huge amount of people coming to buy it on our website. It was awesome. And we weren't ready for it. It's like we were more ready than most people. Like we were sitting there trying to spin up a website in 2 days.
Yeah. Okay.
We had it. We had consumers. We had all the structure necessary behind it. That was just kind of, I'd love to say, because we're super smart and ahead of the game, but just got lucky. Nobody saw COVID coming, I don't think. And then it just happened to be we were sitting there in the right kind of spot. Our whole business just did really good because we were probably 75% retail focused as a brand. So people quit going to the restaurants, couldn't go to the restaurants. They had to buy all their food at the grocery store. So that meant that side of the business was good. People that were scared to go to the grocery stores or not willing to take the risk or for whatever reason didn't want to get out of the house. Well, then here we were one of the very early options they could go and get it delivered direct to their door.
Did you ever have to cut off orders or stop allowing consumers to place them because you were afraid you were going to run out of inventory, or did you?
No, again, we were so lucky because we make it ourselves. So we just ramped up production. We just hired a few extra people, stayed a little later every day. That is one of our great selling points. And since we're at least partially vertically integrated, so we own farms, we're raising our own pigs, we're doing every piece of the puzzle. We were able to just really be very flexible, move things here or there. And we kept one of the big selling points for us with retailers is throughout COVID, we're like a 97% fill rate, which at that, it, a lot of people were 50% or less.
Yeah. Yeah. That is different when I ask this question of others. Your answer is a little bit different than most, especially those who had reliances on supply chains, particularly those coming from other countries where they were just like, I don't know what I'm going to get, and I don't know when I'm going to get it, and I don't know what to promise my consumers in general, let alone my subscribers who are expecting things on an ongoing basis. But
I mean,
sounds
how
like you
long
guys
was
were in a
it?
unique spot.
Well, I don't know how long it was, but there was X amount of containers of freight and goods just sitting off the coast of LA.
Yeah,
Everybody's
right.
just sitting around here like,
Couldn't even get it off. Yeah.
get it in here. We need it. This is our livelihood, our business. This crazy times. It really was.
It was. It was. I think everybody learned a lot of lessons there. Neil, what does, the next couple of years look like for you guys? I think we've touched on a lot of this already. You're not looking to blow out the e-commerce business, but continue to build the brand through those channels and, service consumers that way. Are there any other channels or things you guys are looking at to kind of grow that side of the business?
Not really. I mean, I paused there because I can't think of anything. I feel like we don't feel we're great at the e-commerce business right now today. I mean, so we've got a lot of runway in front of us to get great there. I mean, we've dabbled in NFTs, these kind of different things. There's a cool idea out there with around NFTs being a kind of a subscription of sorts. Like if you own the NFT, you get in the shop and you get to buy a certain. So, I mean, we're just kind of a company that likes to be out there on the crazy fringe edge of what
Try things out.
we don't have the scale to not be out there, because really the facts are for us to keep being relevant and doing what we do and growing, we'll have to always be adopting a little bit of a crazy mindset. I mean, I remember we'd go to food shows years ago and we were talking about no antibiotics ever i- at the table, and the people we're at the table with are laughing at us.
Yeah.
You're crazy. And now, I mean, we could have been, we partly were. But 20 years later, they're calling asking for our advice.
Right. Right. Yeah. Got to take chances. It's not all going to work. Some things don't pan out the way you hope they do, but yeah, you got to take those chances and kind of be out there trying new things. Awesome. Well, Neil, this has been a very interesting conversation. You guys have a different kind of business than the average merchant that I interview on this show, and it's a pretty unique perspective on how you guys have grown this and your viewpoint on how subscriptions affect your business. But for anybody that was listening today wants to check out Pederson Farms, or maybe try a subscription or place an order, where are the best places for them to go?
Pederson's with a D, Pedersons farms, FARMS.com. That's the best place to go. I mean, you can find our products on Amazon, Thrive. There's quite a few partners that are in the commerce space we work with as well. But you want to go right to the source, Pedersonsfarms.com. And that's the other thing. It's like, I watch Amazon and how they operate with their subscription structure and model, and I'm like, it's almost intimidating. Not almost, it is intimidating to think that's our competition, ultimately. So the only other idea I have is, well, let's just do business with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be, effective marketing, so to speak, by just being on, that platform. But at the same time, the action directly with the brand, I think a lot of consumers want that. Amazon's fine for everyday things, don't get me wrong, but like if it's something you really care about sustainability and some of the things that you guys stand for, while they could buy it on Amazon, a lot of times those are the types of consumers that get real ingrained and want to, interact with you directly. So, again, another good reason to have that channel to interact with consumers.
Yeah, totally. And then at least, I mean, you just nailed it. Everybody, that's a yeehaw moment. What Nick's saying is, then you have the relationship with the customer, and it's not Amazon. Amazon stands in between you. We drive about this all the time. Like, there's stuff where we could make it right and do a better job serving the consumer, but we don't know who the consumer is. Like we got almost no way to interact with them and let them know, hey, we'll take care of that, because
Yeah.
Amazon sure keeps that stuff close to the vest. It's understandable because the consumer's the value.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Neil, again, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your background and telling us about the business. And best of luck to you guys at Pederson's in the future.
Appreciate it. Really, I appreciate the opportunity to come tell people about Peterson's a little bit. I mean, I've actually and still believe, I have actually and still believe, but what I'm getting at is one consumer at a time,
Yeah.
one subscriber at a time,
Mhm.
all these things over time compound and help you grow your business.
For sure. For sure. Good advice. All right, Neil. Well, thanks again. Really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir.